A lot has changed since the end of last season. The faithful HPD has been replaced, and Chevrolet has thrown its hat in the ring for the GT cars. But one thing that remains the same is the high pressure environment and high levels of talent that abound. Another familiar factor is the opening round taking place at Daytona International Speedway. The regulars will know what they're up against tonight, but what facets will catch out the newcomers? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round one of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Young and Bill Soupzon. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Daytona often kicks off the season of sports car racing in the real world as well with the 24 Hours of Daytona. To learn a little bit more about this place, let's head to our track guide. Welcome to the Daytona International Speedway. While many oval fans associate this Central Florida track with mainly NASCAR, the road course has gained just as much worldwide fame thanks to it hosting motorcycles and sports cars for decades. In fact, the flagship road race, the 24 Hours of Daytona, has become a major draw for drivers of all disciplines, many eager to have a go at endurance racing. The stats make this place sound relatively simple, with 12 corners on the regular road circuit and 14 on the NASCAR version, both spread amongst 3.5 miles. Indeed, a majority of the lap is spent on the oval portion, where you fly along the notoriously steep banking. But it's easy to underestimate the challenge presented to the drivers. The infield portion begins with the scary kinked entry of Turn 1. Not only is it the fastest part of the track, but the transition from the banking to the flat tends to upset the car as you slow it down. There's also the bus stop chicane on the backstretch. Added in the 80s, this is a tricky piece of circuit that punishes a poor exit severely, with it leading back into the latter half of the oval. As you'd expect, the long periods on throttle mean that drafting tends to play a factor in the racing. It also means passing isn't usually too great of an issue if you have the pace to catch someone. The more difficult thing is managing to gap your opponent so that they don't ride in your slipstream once you get by. With half a century of endurance racing collected among these walls, it's not unfair to say that road racers have just as much claim to call Daytona home. Fans who come to watch certainly won't be disappointed by the high speeds and fantastic thrills it invariably provides each year. You see a little bit about Daytona International Speedway, but Adam, I'd say that it's good to be back. It's been a little bit off here, but what are we expecting with these three classes, especially since we've got one of them slightly different than prior to previous seasons?
Yeah, I mean, one thing you're going to notice right away is the HPD being faster. Excuse me, the LMP2, I've already messed it up. It's probably going to happen again here tonight. But the LMP2 being faster than what the HPD was, even just the looks of it being in a closed cockpit, the faster closing speeds on the slower classes, it's really going to be exciting here. And the drafting game is probably going to be more important here than ever, which is going to be just great racing. I really think this is going to be an hour and a half of just fantastic racing, as Daytona usually puts on over this 12-turn, 3.56 mile layout. One important thing to note, I know there might be some people out there, maybe you're a NASCAR guy that's just getting onto Autobahn here for the first time. They don't use the NASCAR layout. The NASCAR layout's the new one. These guys are using the traditional road course layout here without that chicane coming out of turn 4. So that's going to be a fun one here today. And I'm looking forward to it, Joe. I really am. I think these cars are going to race really well together.
I have to admit, I know we're not supposed to play favorites, but this is one of my favorite series that we cover. So I'm looking forward to it as well. Now, Soup, you've got the update on last season's championship and how things went. Why don't you fill us in?
We'll go ahead and start with the prototypes. Let's go with Billy Smith. He sits third all-time in career wins. He's got 26 of them. 6 of those came last season on the way to his title. He defends that title for a newly formed Autobahn North this season. The only driver with a win last season in the top 5 is Jason Girard, which exemplifies how attrition-prone this class really is. Luke Carboneau, well, he returns, staying in class, as does John. Alan Wolf is back. He's racing for Lap Rat Racing. And then there's no McGarveys this season. Both of them, Stephen and Scott, going to take this one out. Let's go ahead and look at what was then called the GTEs. Jason DeVries sits just 2 back of Billy Smith in career wins with 24. It took 7 of those in season 9 to outdistance hard luck driver Bradley Haley, who had 4. Both drivers move up to the Dallara, with DeVries with Revo Satellite Racing and Haley with Gone Broke. Kevin Binkley has 12 career wins, but surprisingly none of them came last season. 3rd place effort. He stays put with Autobahn East. Mike Young has taken the season off. Carter Kundiga returns. He's moving up in class, and he's going to race in for AOD Racing. Let's finally look at the AM class down there. That was called GTD at the time. The AM championship went to Paul Lindsay. Lindsay's jumping up classes. He's going to be racing in the GTLMs for Lap Rat Racing. His Lap Rat teammate Kevin Santana returns, sticking down in the AM class. Eric Antilli is back as a privateer. It would hardly be Autobahn season without Sheldon Rosenbaum coming off a victory in season 9. He'll race with Autobahn West, joining Lindsay in the GTLMs. And Tim McLeish stays in class for warm-up lap team. Finally, when you look at the team championships, you can see the winners there. I'm just going to quickly talk about how they have that distributed. They rank the drivers either by platinum, gold, silver, or bronze. They give them each a number: 10, 8, 6, and 5, 29-point cap. You got to mix up your teams accordingly, and it makes a great championship in the teams racing, as no one can really stock up on top-tier talent. Joe?
Yep, that's the system that I believe first started last season, and they continue with it this season, and it certainly puts on a fascinating battle in that team's championship. Now, if we do have new viewers, first of all, welcome, and I hope you're ready for some excitement, because this is going to be frantic if previous seasons are anything to go by, because 90-minute races are their long format, but we have a lot of cars out here, and there are 3 classes that are trying to take up this track, so they all have to navigate each other, and that's what makes it so action-packed. There's the 3 classes: the prototypes, the GT Pros, and GTMs, with each of the cars that they are able to drive among them. And most interestingly, they have no fast repair in this series. So if you damage the car, you basically just have to try and get some of that repaired during your pit stop, or try and deal with it until then. Of course, we are in qualifying right now. They've got the last of the qualifying sessions going, as they have 3 of them split up between the GTM, GT Pro, and now the prototypes, the fastest of them trying to get the overall pole, which currently belongs to Paul Darling. But Adam, I'm looking at the times, and it looks like DeVries, Darling, and Romagnolo are really ready to give us a show. It is less than a 10th between the 3 of them.
Yeah, less than half a tenth go back to DeVries. I mean, that's just a whiff of a draft, or just a slightly different line somewhere. I mean, that's that difference is negligible, really, especially here at Daytona. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to make that up. And Joe, you talk about a lot of cars, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest stories of the race here today is the field. 59. Here's see what the last lap is. Not do anything there, so Harley's an outlap or something. 59 cars currently registered for this session. That's almost iRacing's maximum is 60. Just to give you a good idea of how many cars we're going to have out there. And so far, everybody is in the session with 5 minutes to go here.
Yeah, this is going to be impressive to watch. Paul Darling, unfortunately, spins out to the infield there, so it looks like he's going to have to get back out there and try for one more. And Carter Kundinger, who comes down to the line, sets another lap, but unfortunately, it looks like he must have had an off or something around there. Speaking of offs, they do have an incident limit in this series as well, Bill. 36, and there's no drive-through penalty on that. It's just straight to a DQ at that 36. At a track like this with that bus stop, I wonder if that's going to be a little bit of a fear.
Yeah, they just blink away to the Amelia Earhart Bar and Grill there if they hit that number. We've seen it happen before. We've been around long enough. I remember David Binkley hitting that number on the final corner at Phillip Island, where he blinked away, lost himself a podium spot because of it. Indeed, and Daytona's the kind of place where you can get those, and you can actually almost save them like as a off to pass if you want. You can pick up a little bit of time. So if you ration them out, you may want to save them to the end when the racing is important, when you're trying to gain on something.
Romagnolo just crossed the line, but looks like that was another one without a lap counted, so he also must have had an off. I'm surprised to see Robert Tinsey down in 5th place. Bob the Blade is apparently still adjusting a little bit to this new car. He's about 6/10 off the pole. I mean, we've seen this in other series too when they switch cars around. Something people who are incredibly fast find themselves maybe a little bit more of a specialist to specific ones.
Yeah, and that's one reason too why I really like this series, and the fact that, of course, one of the other major series that we do is, well, the majors. And we're different cars almost every single time we race and all that. Different cars, different disciplines, and you look at the majors drivers that have either raced in the majors before, still are currently, like Paul Darling, like Joshua Wolf, like Tinsey, like David Williams. Ulmer has had some starts in the majors. Jimbo Pfeiffer in the GT Pro Series. I mean, the list goes on. And but they all adapt a little bit faster than what other guys otherwise would, because there is definitely a learning curve between these three different classes. It's all about adaptability if you want to change classes.
Now, speaking of adaptability, this is a track known for giving quite a bit of a slipstream, and you were talking about that earlier with Roman Yolo and De Vries needing maybe just a little bit of one to move up. Roman Yolo's got one right now. He's behind the two that we're watching on screen. Oh, but he crosses the line, and it's another one that didn't count. Those two in front of him, that was Billy Smith towing along. And I think I lost him already. I didn't quite see who it was that he was pulling along there. This is Bradley Haley now, who has jumped over to the prototypes. Does not get a lap in, unfortunately. Josh Wolf going to come to the line himself. And man, we just keep catching them when they're not going to put one down. So he still is in fourth. That's on the outside of the second row. I kind of wonder about this start. We see this every season, Bill, and I alluded to it in our intro that the first race always seems just a little bit more crazy with the newcomers coming in.
Yeah, and add to that the new car. There was a lot of talk about closing rate in the forums. The drivers were saying they got really comfortable with the HPD, and honestly, I was stepped away from the series for a season, came back, and was impressed early on when Autobahn started. There was a lot of controversy how you do multi-class racing. Boy, they had really had it figured out the last few seasons. I think it's going to be a bit of a learning curve coming up here. A lot of new drivers, and the closing rate from the new car, yeah, those slower classes, they got to check their mirrors and then check them again.
Yeah, we saw a lot of chatter about that amongst the drivers pre-race. Concern, some of them worried that, I mean, they come into corners and they had checked just a second or two ago, and then suddenly there's a car there. That's how fast they arrive. So we're seeing if Tinsey can maybe put one down. Nope, not one for him this time. What about David Warner down in 13th? Looks like 1:43.8, not going to be quicker. So we've switched back to Josh Wolf, who's coming out of NASCAR 4, seeing if he can get onto the first row. Is this going to be quick enough? It's a 32.8 for his last one, and he is a 33.8, about a second off, unfortunately, and only 1 minute left now in the qualifying. So it is trickling down to the dying stages. If they want to improve, they've got to do it this time by.
They are. I mean, this is the last chance, last hurrah, however you want to put it. You got guys like Ulmer that are going to be coming out there. Here comes Carter Kindiger. Here he knocks off a little. No, actually, he doesn't. He was about a 0.05 off from improving his time right there. Paul Darling might have gotten across the line with enough time to finish this lap. That'd be good for him. Leif Peterson out there. A bunch of guys that really stand to gain here on this lap if they can just find the right spot.
Was watching John Ulmer, and he didn't manage to go any quicker. Tinsey is going to be the first to take the checkered flag, and those behind him can finish their hot lap, but Tinsey is coming into pit lane. He decides it's not going to be quick enough. David Warner will be next in the 33. Down into the tri-oval. He'll stick with it. He's trying to improve on a 33.6, and it's still slow for him, unfortunately.
And that's unfortunate. He was wanting to get a little bit more right there.
Roman Yolo, or excuse me, Haley not able to go quicker. This is Robert Cantin on screen now. In the 199, he sits 14th, second to last in his class, and he's going to start there unless somebody behind him manages to improve, which is only Mark Wilson for the time being.
And I don't know if you saw DeVries there. I mean, he was only 200 slower than his previous best time, so he almost was able to improve and make up some of that gap.
Carter Gundinger abandons his lap. I believe that will leave Ulmer, Wilson, and Williams as the last three to be able to put a time down. It's still Paul Darling on provisional pole. Ulmer is a big maybe. He doesn't seem to be as quick in this car as he was in the HPD. As he crosses the line, it's a 33.5, but that will not bump him up any positions. Mark Wilson, a 34 flat. That still keeps him in 15th, unfortunately. That will round out our qualifying. So the grid is set for round one here today of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge. Paul Darling has the pole. Jason DeVries is going to be starting next to him. And then on the inside of row 2, Giuliano Romagnolo will be P3. Josh Wolf to his outside starts 4th, followed by Leif Peterson in P5. It's Robert Tinsey starting in 6th, and David Williams on the inside of row 4 in 7th. Bradley Haley starting P8. Expected maybe a little bit more out of Bradley here on the first race, but still he'll be in the middle of the pack. Billy Smith starts 9th, and Luke Carboneau rounds out your top 10. John Ulmer will be starting in 11th. Another one that I'm a bit shocked he's starting that far down. Carter Kundinger in 12th, is then followed by David Warner in 13th. Robert Cantin P14, and the last of the prototypes is Mark Wilson in 15th. Adam?
All right, to lead off the field of the GT Pro Class, you're going to have Ross Booth back there, Jimbo Pfeiffer, Denise Svetrick, Brian Bennett, a guy that raced a lot against Brian there, great guy right there. Kevin Binkley be starting with him. Going on to the next row, I believe the Young Park will be alongside Oliver Turcade, Stefan Jeffrey, Paul Savanek. Hey, Paul Savanek out there. He's racing for a new team this season in Autobahn, so looking forward to big things out of him. Sheldon Rosenbaum, Marc-Antoine Thibault, Paul Lindsay, Vince Bow, Mo Islam, Christopher Paz, and to round out the GT Pro field, Jerry Mueller and Lionel DePratt there from Texas.
Okay, I got 30 of these to do, so let's play the GSRC consumption game right now as I mispronounce how many of these. We'll find out. On the pole, it's Luke Schmidt. He's got Jeremy Dusty Rhodes right next to him. Jordan Muser going to be in the spot with Kevin Santana flanking him. It's Ryan Robertson and Ryan Walsh in the next row. Eric Gaudreau-Drapeau. I think I got that one right. Put your glass down. Kevin O'Keefe is outside of him. Shane Hunter and Joey Atterbury in the filling up the next row. Reggie Robertson and Dominic Dornenberg. David Perry and Dale Green. Mark Herzog Dawson, Never Say Die, Brock, Jared Eden. Chris Sherburne is back. We got also Tim McLeish in the mix as well. Mark Kurowski with Matt Owens, Joey Sheldon Rosenbaum, Sean Reese, Cody Franklin, Joey Trungell, and I'm done.
I see Trevor McClure at the back. He didn't set a time, and he's still in the session, but he's not gridded, so I think he might be starting from pit lane here today. Before we get off on our partial pace lap, it's tradition for Autobahn. Who are your picks today? We'll start with Adam.
Well, that's going to be a tough one there, but I'm actually liking Joshua Wolf. I mean, I've raced with him a lot on restrictor plate tracks and cup cars and everything else. The guy knows how to manage air, and I think to be at the front of the LMP2 class today, you're really going to have to manage air. So I'm going with my pick, and I'm also going to count him as a dark horse pick a little bit here too, but I like Joshua Wolf's chances.
Bill?
Yeah, I'm going to double. I hate to be repetitious, but I'm going to double Adam's pick there, Joshua Howland Wolf. We know him for sure. I think he's looking to pick up his first win. I like Zippy Ross Booth in the what would be the pro class down there, and then finally in the AMs that I'm covering, you gotta love a guy, Jeremy Dusty Rhodes. Seems like a guy with name Rhodes would be good out here on a road course, so I'm taking him.
Okay, as we come through the banking of NASCAR 3 and 4. What is it going to be? Paul Darling leads the way after taking pole position, but there is 90 minutes and many, many cars to overtake, well, at least to lap, before he reaches the checkered flag. Plenty of chances for any of these drivers to trip up. As the pace car peels in. Darling waiting to go. Green flag is out. And Darling gets a good jump. In fact, they're pretty much straightening out behind him down to 4th or 5th as they pile into the first corner. This is looking smooth so far among our prototype starters, and it is a clean start. Let's go to Adam for the GT Pro.
Yeah, fall back to the GT Pro here. And these guys still rounding NASCAR turn 3. Actually, coming to the start finish line, getting a little bit behind. Brian Bennett back there gets a good jump. I actually like the start that he got. Ross Bluth gets the best jump out of all, and he's taking this field down to turn 1. See if everybody gets through here. Turn 1, always a danger zone. Really, anywhere, any time during the race, this can be a danger zone to watch out for here. But everybody gets through clean.
Luke Smith just ahead of Rose with Muser, Santana, and Robertson right behind.
We're heading down into the first corner in the GT AMs, and Schmidt is well clear of the fields. It's a little bit packed up in the middle of the class there, as there are many side by side. You can see trying to sort it out through the S's, and one going off. That is, that's Drapeau. And unfortunately, he gets in contact with another car who smashes into the tires. We got 2 turned around at the International Horseshoe. Durnenberg involved in that, along with Shane Hunter. So the only class with problems, it seems, at the start is our GT AMs.
All the drivers get out there, Joe.
We'll come and check on that a little bit later. We're seeing a small breakaway up at the front. Paul Darling and
Here's our
Yolo.
first big battle back here with Haley, Billy Smith going down trial. They were 3 wide back there. See how they all get through turn 1? I know this is mid-pack LMP2, but this got a little exciting here for a minute. Billy Smith trying to come back on Carter Kundiger. And then can't navigate around Bradley Haley, though. He's going to back them up a little bit. While that's going on, Leif Peterson saying, hey, guys, keep racing. I'm not going to pull away here.
Yeah, this is a fierce fight. You can see coming off the corner, that's Kundinger in the red machine to the inside with Billy Smith challenging him. They're going to stay side by side as they come up to the Western Horseshoe. Smith is strong on the brakes. Can he go the long way around and execute the pass? Not quite. Kundinger continues to fight him. But finally, as they break into turn 6, he gives it up and he leaves the door open for John Ulmer. 2 positions down in 1 lap for poor Carter Kundinger.
Yeah, and Carter, of course, that could give him a bad run here going down the back straightaway until they get to the bus stops. Have to use the draft to kind of recover from that a little bit. Let's see if he's able to come back on John Ulmer here going to the bus stop. Ulmer's going to take the inside. Kundinger is going to go ahead and look to the outside. Might be able to clear him here. Going to get that spot back.
Nicely done. Kundinger not going to let it go easily. Oh, but he bobbles off of the bus stop, and Ulmer gets another shot. The battle continues yet again, but Ulmer's on the high side.
While that was going on, Paul Darling loses the lead. He's going to lose second place, too, to Jason DeVries. Right now, Giuliano Romolino here is in the lead.
Romagnolo up to the front, and DeVries can't fight it. Paul Darling back to 3rd now after starting on the pole position. They continue to gap Josh Wolf, who's about a second behind them in the 4th position. You can see he's under heavy pressure from David Williams currently. Now, well, just a quick update that we did have a tow for Dominic Dornenberg, and I see Joe Steifel and Shane Hunter in the GT AM class, unfortunately also in pit lane. We'll try to get an update on what happened to them.
Hey, got a good battle here for, I believe it is second place in GT Pro. Jimbo Pfeiffer and Brian Bennett going at it here. Great battle for those guys going through turn 1. Brian Bennett's going to be able to complete that pass. He got past him just going through the start-finish line, finishes the job going to turn 1 here. So great battle here for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th in GT Pro.
Pass for the lead in the AM class there as Kevin Santana, who has already made his way around Dusty Rhodes earlier, has worked his way now around Schmidt, and he's now up in front.
So, looks like, whoa, and a bit of a mistake behind them. It looks like Rhodes actually going wide at turn 1. Jordan Musser is right on top of it, seeing if he can capitalize. You can see him in the inside to the dark-colored car. And as the 2 Audis go wheel to wheel through the International Horseshoe, it's going to go to Jordan, the 44, managing to get a nose ahead, and that looked like a lift there from having to give it up. It's not looking good in terms of race pace for the 49.
No, Rhodes qualified in second position, but going the wrong way. The guy to watch is Santana, a veteran of this class. He's cooking.
Meanwhile, up front, the LMP2 class here in the prototypes, man, Romolano had a lot of problems here with DeVries and Darling. Go ahead.
And Smith is off in the International Horseshoe, falling well down the order. I'm not sure what happened to him. I think he got help. I think Bradley Haley got into the back of him. Haley's going to lose 2 positions from that as well. He's in the 428 car. Let's see if we can find the incident. Should be into the International Horseshoe. So it looks like we might not have the replay, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I can confirm he did get a little bit of help there, and went right around, just a gentle spin, but definitely he's got some ground to make up here.
So as we come back live, Smith is down to 15th and Haley is to 13th. Both of them suffered greatly from that incident. That is Smith on your screen in the blue and orange 901. Oh, I think we're getting up to traffic as well.
Yeah, well, we've been in traffic here for a while. It's kind of helped spark some of these battles that are going on right now. But it's also really hurt the guy that I picked here to maybe try to sneak one out, and that was Joshua Wolf, who's having to really hold off David Williams right now as they go through turn 1 while in the middle trying to get through some traffic.
Wow. This is where the franticness starts, right here. The GTM suddenly getting flooded by these prototypes. And we talked about the closing rate. These are a great example of what they've got to experience for the next 90 minutes, an hour and 23, really. So far up at the front, Romagnolo is able to pull away. And unfortunately for Jason DeVries, he couldn't quite find the hole the same way that Giuliano could. Behind him, that allows Paul Darling to close up. Not enough track space to try and overtake, though. David Williams as well, having to tiptoe past all these slower class cars.
We were talking about adaptability earlier on there, Joe, and one thing that a lot of these guys here, the prototype drivers, are having to adapt to is the change in closing speed between the other classes, because it's much faster than what the HPD used to be.
That's very true. And as they come through the bus stop, oh, and the first incident caused by traffic. Oh, and wow, big hit between Tinsey and DeVries. Unfortunately,
he's still sliding on his lid.
Looks like Tim McLeish in the 95 was in front of them, and he didn't actually, or did he get hit? No, he did get clipped just a little bit by DeVries, and that's DeVries that you can see who went spinning. And then poor Robert Tinsey in the number 2 just comes in completely blind. We should get an onboard from this, and goes flying. There's the results of it as he winds up on his lid. Here's Tinsey's view. Oh, wow.
And I think Paul Darling might have got a piece of that too. He's still out there racing, but I think he might have clipped somebody as he went by.
Wouldn't be surprised. That could have been a much bigger incident for sure. As we come back to our leaders in the prototypes, still picking their way among many of our GTMs. In fact, it's holding up Paul Darling quite a bit. He's in 3rd, and he's unfortunately under threat going down into 4th as Josh Wolf almost got by him, but he himself got picked off by some of that traffic. So your order is Romagnolo leading by a massive 4.2 seconds, Darling right behind Williams, and then Wolf behind that pair in 4th.
And Romagnolo has finally cleared all the AM drivers. Now he can pick up the next class.
Yeah, with that, I mean, with him being able to clear all those guys and clear sailing here for a little bit, it's really going to help him gain his advantage, especially with DeVries out now.
Let's head to the battle for 3rd in the GT Pros. Jimbo Pfeiffer being chased by Kevin Binkley and Dennis Savretic. They're going to get caught up by these prototypes probably within the next 2 or 3 laps. So this could greatly affect the battle for the podium here. Onto the oval portion. That is Pfeiffer in the Corvette. the number double lot.
Oh,
Ooh, and Luke
Billy
Carboneau.
Smith. Billy Smith with a big incident again on the main straight. I think he's done. Okay. He got clipped on the main straight, put it in the wall, and he had problems earlier. He made contact with Carboneau.
Yeah, unfortunately, Luke Carboneau was part of that, and he was incredibly heated afterwards. In fact, Luke just spun right now and unfortunately sent Bradley Haley off. You can see him try to recover. Haley, actually a magnificent save by all. Can we get a replay of this?
Carboneau was racing a wounded animal.
We're going to see if we can get this.
There was such contact on the front straight that Carboneau had a wounded animal going in the corner. I'm not surprised that he spun it. And Billy Smith had some instructions of how Luke needs to drive.
It's a good thing that Smith didn't hit anything and was able to keep going. But I tell you what, the lead for the GT Pros is also closing in. Brian Bennett and Ross Booth are separated by 0.4 of a second currently. There you can see heading out of turn 6 and on to NASCAR 1. That's Booth in the Corvette, the Porsche belonging to the 161 of Brian Bennett. He's going to be able to reel him in on the slipstream here, Adam.
Brian Bennett's another one of those guys that really knows how to manage the air when he has the opportunity to. I mean, I'll be readily admit, too, he's taught me a thing or two over the past few years about road racing. And, you know, Ross Booth's going to have his hands full here with him because I don't think Brian Bennett's going to go away at this point.
Certainly not. Though he didn't get the best of exits out of the bus stop. And the 161 has got to reclaw back a little bit of that space. I thought that the Porsche would be a little bit better trying to drag him in, but I guess that Corvette is rather slippery in a straight line, it seems. Updates on Smith and Carboneau, don't need to go to them, but they've towed to the pits. Both of them taking repairs, unfortunately. You can see the sun going down. Of course, as they traditionally do, they're going to start with a sunset race, a twilight race here in the majors, excuse me, in the Autobahn.
$5.
Yeah. There's like Adam was talking about, so many have crossed over from each series. Many familiar faces.
So just pointing this out here, so technically, because you know I love this stuff, Joe. And one thing I like about the Autobahn is the sim time is the actual date. So we are racing on December 7th in sim racing standard time, however you want to phrase it. Sunset is at 5:26 p.m. there in Daytona, Florida. And that's about 10 minutes away is actual sunset.
Let's head down to the GT AMS where we've got a battle for third. Luke Schmidt in the number 27 trying to hold off Jeremy Rhodes and Ryan Walsh, as well as Kevin O'Keefe, kind of all packed together in a quartet. Oh, and that's going to change one position, actually, because it appears that Walsh goes a little bit wide through the International Horseshoe. Kevin O'Keefe now finds himself up one.
Yeah, qualifying meaning very little in this division as Santana and Loser has moved up, and the guys who were up front, Schmidt and Rose, have fallen back.
At least got a small respite from all of the prototypes before they come around again for another pass. And on to the oval. Schmidt's going to be looking for a nice exit to keep Rhodes at bay. Meanwhile, Rhodes definitely wants to make up for his loss of positions early in the race after his qualifying didn't seem to pay enough dividends. And they come onto the back stretch. Rhodes is gaining. He's gaining. Does he dare try and pass this early into the bus stop? The answer is no. He lifts early. Get another shot at it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say he'll get another shot of it here out of the bus stop. And actually, he's much better. He'll have to go around the high side, though, as Schmidt holds low. There you can see the black Audi belonging to Rhodes. He's got the momentum, but he's got to complete it heading down into turn 1. Continuing to creep forward. He's now got a nose ahead of the number 27. Can he get this done? He's very deep on the brakes. Is it too deep? Can he get it down to the apex? Not quite. And they almost bang doors as they swing through. It's still not done. Luke Schmidt back ahead and fully beyond his car. Rhodes tries to brake deep enough to get an overlap into the International Horseshoe, and he does it. This time he could get by, and the 49 finally gets himself back on the podium.
You know, the fact that Luke Schmidt's able to hang in there with that kind of rear wing damage is pretty incredible. He's doing a whale of a job getting through the infield portion of this course in that Audi.
They're being joined. Yeah, that's Luke Carboneau. So he's a little bit off sequence here in the prototypes. And he's going to interrupt the battle, at least momentarily. All this is taking place behind our leader in the GT Pros, which is still Kevin Santana, 2.2 seconds ahead.
I believe you mean GTAM there that he's in front of.
Yes, thank you.
I got your back, Joe.
There we go. But yes, leading the GT-AM class, the 666, looking for another victory. Watching Carboneau kind of weave his way through there.
Kind of got to the front, he was gone.
Well, you have to think he's motivated. He's missed out on the championship twice now. And last season, he finished, actually, I think last 2 seasons, he's finished 2nd place. Kevin trying to kick things off on the right foot.
Another Kevin to watch in that class, though, is O'Keefe. He's very, very, very competitive out there in his white and blue colored machine. Doing really well, car number 629. Right behind pole sitter Luke Schmidt.
You know, and that's the thing. I mean, we're all sitting here. We're now, what, just a few laps short for the LMP2s, the prototypes to be coming down pit road here. You know, and then followed along by the GT classes. But pit stops can change everything and shuffle all this up. So even though there's a 5 or 6 second lead right now for like O'Keefe for Santana over O'Keefe, that could evaporate very quickly. And the same goes for all these classes, especially on pit exit here. It's tough and things can happen.
You know, we had the camera on O'Keefe there for a while. And in the real world, you know what his custom license plate reads? iRacing.
Ah, interesting. I thought it was going to be a lawyer pun.
Yeah, well, those are too easy.
By the way, the GT Pro lead's still incredibly tight between Bennett and Booth. We haven't talked about it a whole lot. I kind of wonder if there's some fuel strategy shenanigans going on. If Bennett maybe is just hanging back here because he's been so close. I would have thought that he'd be able to slingshot by if he wanted to.
Well, we're thinking that the GT classes, both of them, AM and Pro, are probably just going to make 2 stops here today. And I would venture to say that they're not going to take tires. And that could very well be what Brian's thinking about here right now, that he might be able to get a couple of tenths off. This is really going to slow him up right here, getting mixed up with the GTAM class.
Oh, and he has to duck off, and he makes contact with Giuliano Romagnolo. Oh no.
Man.
That was Sean Reese and Christopher Sherburne who were in a fight in front of him. Bennett just kind of an innocent victim on that one. Same thing with Romagnolo, and poor Giuliano, you can understand, he's pretty upset, and Bennett has to immediately come in. Unfortunately, it looks like he got a little bit too much damage from that slap into the wall.
You know, Adam, you were talking about tire strategy. I was trying to get some information. It was like, felt like I was asking George Costanza for his PIN number, but Bosco, they would not tell me if tires were going to be changed or not. We'll find out.
I mean, I would, you know, just experience in racing these cars. I mean, we got a track temperature right now of 76 degrees, and I just don't think we're going to be seeing massive tire wear. If somebody might try to change tires, but I think your race winner ends up not changing tires.
I have a little birdie behind the scenes telling us if they do, they're expecting it at the later on in the race, which would make sense.
Now the prototypes, I think they will. I think they will. And some of the things that we're hearing as far as strategy and stuff might be on the second stop, and that would make sense for the prototypes.
Well, right now on screen, that is David Williams, our leader in the prototypes, starting from 7th, by the way. You know, we talked about staying out of trouble and avoiding the chaos here. Well, that's exactly what David has done. He does have pace, mind you, so this isn't sheer luck, because he's got about 2.2 seconds over Paul Darling right now. But David Williams is one who's been a regular in this series in times past, just haven't shown up in a minute, and clearly he has forgotten nothing of how to race in this series.
Funny you mentioned that. Jason DeVries, his comment was before the race that the first 2 rounds are about survival, then the real series starts in round 3. I guess Jason should have listened to his own posting there, read his own post, as he's out of the race due to attrition.
You're a little bit at the mercy of the racing gods sometimes, especially in Autobahn. So not sure how much of it was his fault. So much has already happened. I'm trying to go back and recall on my notes to see what's happened to Jason that's put him backwards. Let's check in on some of our battles in the GTM, since we haven't looked at them in a while. I do see that one of our real-world pros is fighting for 5th in the number 4 car. That's Joey Atterbury fighting with Ryan Wash. I'm going to do that too many times.
That's right. It all comes out in the wash. He's he's got around him there now. He's working on. The question is he going to be able to catch O'Keefe? Now, O'Keefe has been able to get around. I looked at what I was like, see, where did I find Schmidt? He got around Schmidt. In fact, Schmidt must be having some issues as he's well down the order now.
Yeah, Schmidt's in 7th, and he's about 16 seconds back. We'll see if we can send our spotter to go look and see what happened to Schmidt, if he's got some notes on what happened to the 27. You can see the rear wing severely bent up. It must be down on top end speed.
I saw O'Keefe make the clean pass on him, so it wasn't from that. So I'll see if we can find out. Oh, it looks like he